Great, thank you. Um, Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are, or good evening for some potentially. Welcome to this introduction to SnapPod. I'm Rob Gregory, I'm the UK Sales Manager, and joining me, as you've already heard, is Tina Voisey, who's the Education Manager, also here in the UK. So we are going to be covering a lot of ground in a relatively short space of time this morning. Hopefully get everything into the hour. Um, Please do ask questions in the chat window as we go through. But just to let you know that in order for us to keep the momentum going and to get everything into the hour that we've got, we will be taking all of the questions at the end. The reason we're doing that is we think we'll probably answer quite a few of your questions as we go through anyway, but we will be monitoring the chat window and we'll take them all towards the end of this session. So let's kick off. The first thing we need to speak about is the elephant in the room, which we've seen mentioned in a few occasions on social media, which was the pod converter from Compass, podding Compass, into SnapPod. And in the past, we had said that we would work on a converter, and indeed we did. Unfortunately, that proved to be more difficult than we had hoped due to unforeseen challenges, some of which were entirely out of our control. The upshot of this has meant that we don't have a converter for you from Compass, and for that we are very, very sorry, because we know that will be a blow to many of you. However, I can tell you that during that time, we have been working extremely hard on making SnapPod an absolutely fantastic experience. We've crammed it full of exciting features, some of which will be familiar, some of which will be completely new to you and are completely unique to SnapPod. If we click onto the next slide, please, Tina, you will see a huge raft of some of these things that you will get in SnapPod. I'm not going to spend any time at all on all of this because Tina will cover most of these things as we go through the hour. However, if there's anything on here or anything else that you can think of that we don't manage to cover, ping it into the message window and we can take it at the end. We did this yesterday and we did have a lot of questions that we still needed to go through. So yeah, keep them coming. Next up for me is the next big question is pricing. So pricing basically works with if you buy the Windows installation, then you get 2 installations on there. The total cost of that is £349. Your local account managers and partners will be able to tell you the pricing in your local currency if you're not from the UK. That comprises of the £199 for Snap and £149 for Pod. That gives you, as I said, 2 installations. One of those will be on Windows. The other one can be on Windows or iOS. So for those who are using an iPad, that could be a great solution if you want to have the iPad as the communication device and then a licensed copy on a Windows device for modeling or for programming reasons, if you want that to be licensed. The second option that you can go for is SnapPod on iOS, so from the Apple Store. That will give you, that costs £198. That will give you 10 installs on 10 iPads as long as they're on the same Apple account. So it won't work on 10 different iPads on different accounts. But it does allow you to take advantage of the VPP discounts if you're an organization or a school that's got access to that. Again, as we mentioned on social media, in the first week of launch, for those of you who are already using Pod in Compass or anywhere else for that matter, we wanted to say thank you for using it and for using Compass and for bearing with us for a long time. We know a lot of you have been waiting anxiously for this moment. So we are giving a 50% discount off the Windows license in that first week. We will, at the end of this session, we will send you a follow-up email with a link to sign up to the form to get that discount, and that will be sent to you. Yesterday, we also put it into the chat, the link, Tina, so I don't know if you want to do that again today. So yeah, in the first week of launch, you will be able to get the Windows version for half price. That doesn't affect the device pricing. Existing Snapcore First license holders can do an in-app purchase or a purchase order purchase, so contact us directly for £149 and add PODD into Snapcore First. Device purchases, again, there's an add-on for PODD, same process, and that's £149. One of the questions that came through quite a few times yesterday in the chat was about additional languages. At launch, we're launching PODD in Australian and US. There will be additional languages. No, unfortunately, we can't give you timelines on those at the moment. Every language that we do release has to be approved by Gail before we can release it. So there is a certain element of when we can release depending on Gail's workload, as well as our own development time in-house. But when those languages are released, those of you that have gone ahead and purchased SnapPODD already will have access to those at no additional cost. There's also free editing software, and it is, for those of you who are professionals, it is included in the Tobii Dynavox for Professionals scheme. So speech therapists, etc., can have access to a copy of that. So just to summarize that, if we go to the next slide, this gives you an overview of which each one gives you. So just to go through it very quickly again, Windows standalone install gives you 2 installs, one on Windows and then one on Windows or iOS on an iPad. I keep saying iPad. The iOS Apple Store version gives you 9 installs or 10 installs on the same Apple account. Then we have Tobii Dynavox devices. They come with 3 installs, so you get an install on your device and then the 2 additional installs on either Windows or iOS. Editing software is unlimited on Windows and iOS. That will sync across Windows and iOS devices and is unlimited. You can have as many installs of that as you like. And
free,
again,
free.
For free, I beg your pardon.
Just doesn't speak.
It doesn't speak, but it is free. And then there's Tobii Dynavox for Professionals, so which is free on registering for professionals associated with the AAC world. And that's 1 install on Windows or iOS. Again, with all of these, you can sync across different platforms, so you can sync between Windows and iOS. And we'll show you as we get stuck into this that the experience of SnapPODD on either Windows or on the iPad is identical. You don't have to worry about features being compatible on one platform or the other. They are identical. In the UK, at launch, we will be launching a speech case SnapPODD bundle. Again, this is a UK only thing. That's due to the way in which we're allowed to sell iPads by Apple. But that will comprise the speech case, an iPad, a 128 gig iPad with 2 years TD care. That includes accidental breakage of the speech case and the iPad. So we've got unlimited breakage cover in that for 2 years and a copy of SnapPODD. We will get back to you on a final price for that. We don't have it just yet, but when we launch next Tuesday, we will do. So that's everything from me. I'll hand you over to Tina to take you through everything else.
Thank you, Rob. I think we are going to start off with talking about symbols. So first I'll introduce myself. I'm Tina Voisey. I'm the education manager in the UK and Ireland. So I support a team of account managers who work throughout the UK. I personally have been using Boardmaker for many more years than I want to admit, well over 20. And at the heart of that is PCS. And one, I think, of the biggest things that's going to come over to Snap PODD is all of the wonderful PCS symbols that we have been developing over particularly the last 5 years since we've introduced Boardmaker Online and we've had a mechanism for doing bi-weekly symbol updates. So let's just talk a little bit about the symbols that you are going to have available to you in Snap PODD. So we start off with our classic symbols, where it all began, the very recognizable eggheads, which you can see we've really been working hard to update. Most recently, looking at how we can reflect diversity within our symbols. So adding things like different skin tones, and there's going to be more that's going to come through with that in Snap, really allowing you to personalize your classic symbols to meet your needs and to reflect the life around you. You're also going to be getting the thin line symbols. Again, this is something we've been working very hard on to reflect diversity in the depictions of these symbols. So making sure that we reflect people from many different backgrounds and cultures throughout them. So all of these are going to be made available to you through Snap the moment you get PODD, and we will update them when we update the Snap software. So as we create more symbols, you'll have them as well. Now, really excited to announce, particularly to the PODD community, because this is where it all began, the high contrast symbols, which were first developed in conjunction with Gail Porter and Linda Burkhart to support users with a visual impairment, are getting a second volume. So they are going to be growing by quite a large amount. These, I don't believe, will be available the day that Snap PODD launches, but it will be shortly after. And you don't have to purchase anything additionally. All of these will be in there for you to use. Then lastly, we have our in context symbols. So these were symbols that were designed and developed to support people who've had a stroke or brain injury. So these are going to be available as well within Snap. And something that we're doing through Boardmaker, which then works its way into Snap, are biweekly symbol updates. So you won't get them at this regularity within Snap. Like I said, it will be when we do a Snap update, a system update, which is fairly regularly. But we have been looking about the world around us and the types of things that we know our users want to talk about, want to be able to say just like their peers. So we've been creating lots of different symbols covering things from current events to vernacular and slang, to things that we need around us like AAC systems and such. So I think this is all a fantastic addition to Snap, something that you're all going to benefit from. So now what I'd like to do is get into Snap and show you how it works and all the wonderful features that you're going to get. So just bear with me for a second because I need to change my screen share. Just give me 1 second here. Open that, and there we go. Okay, so here we go. We are in Snap PODD. So I'm going to start by creating a new user. So I'm going to click on Get Started. And you'll see we've got all of our page sets available. And if I scroll down, we have PODD 15, 15 plus, 60 complex and 60 expanded keyword available from launch in Australian and American English. As we develop and release new languages, these will become available through this. So we will see new languages as they are released in this pick list. So I'm going to start by choosing PODD Australian 15. Now I'm going to go in and put in my Toby Dynavox username and password. I'm actually pinching Rob's for this demonstration. So I'm going to go in there. And then it's just checking my my licensing, make sure that I have indeed purchased PODD. I'm going to have a Scottish accent here, go through, and now it's setting up my PODD 15. So here we've got PODD with everything that you know and love about PODD. So as we click on buttons, we'll see everything we're familiar with, our turn pages, our folder system that brings us to linked pages. We've got our oops. We have what you know as pop-ups. So when I click on something and I click on it, it closes back to the page before. We have our go back to main page. We have our categories. We have clear. So everything that you are familiar with when it comes to PODD is there. Nothing there has changed. When we go into controls, we do see some things that we've been able to add because of Snap. One of the things that I personally am very excited about is the integration with Boardmaker Activities. So if I click on this, regardless as to whether I have a Boardmaker account or not, I have access to some free Boardmaker activities. Now, I'm passionate about supporting people who use AAC to develop their literacy skills, and we have a lot of fantastic stuff within this area to do that. So if I go into the bookshelf, I can see here a number of really fantastic books to help engage our emerging readers, to give our more conventional readers the opportunity to go in using whatever access method they're using, because Snap PODD is compatible with Switch, eye gaze, mouse, and touch, to be able to go in and open any of these books and engage in the words, the letters that they're seeing on the page. They can have it read out to them.
Discovering Kenya.
Or they can go through and they can just click maybe on one word that they're struggling to read themselves. I'm going to go back. I can go back to my library. That's quite an advanced book. We also have books for beginners. We also give you some nice tools, such as, I think the maths tools is actually a really fun one, to engage some of our users in getting involved in games around the house that we might be playing, particularly those of us on lockdown now. Again, we just went into a second phase in the UK. So there's going to be a lot of game playing in my house. So now I can go through and I can spin the spinner, and then I can go back to my pod and we can say, let's go, come on, let's go. And I'm going to turn the page because I want to go to the library and I can play my games and interact with my family, all within, if we go to controls, that Boardmaker Activities section. Now, if I do happen to have a version of Boardmaker that allows me to create interactive resources. So that could be Boardmaker SD Pro, it could be Boardmaker 7 when it releases. I can make an account, which will also allow me to put personalized materials in here. So if I have to support somebody maybe in other areas of their life, so possibly washing hands, I can create that in Boardmaker, and through my free community account, I can link that to my Snap PODD. So we can have personalized Boardmaker resources within our Snap PODD as well. This is taking a moment to open. I should have tried this before because it's downloading it for the first time. Should have done that before, but you can see from the thumbnail that we've got a nice, clear hand washing activity that's very specific to this user that I made in my Boardmaker, and put into my community account. Now, a few other things that we can do, thanks to Snap, is we can edit everything really easily and really quickly. So I'm going to go into edit mode by clicking on this button here. And one of the first things I want to do is change the top bar, the message bar, because I'd really like to have a clear there. So just by clicking on the message window, you'll see I've got these little handles. That's going to allow me to change the size of my message window, because I'm going to have to move it and make it smaller in order to get a few more buttons. I can click on any of these gray buttons and then find different actions that I can add to my message bar. So what I'd like to do is have a clear there, and maybe on this side, I was used to using the chat feature in Compass, and I've got it here as well. So I'm going to put that on the left where it was before in my older system. And then I can use those tools there within my message window. You can also see down here below our editing system opened up. Snap has made it really clear and easy for me to edit. So we've got a very clear system across the top where we start with the smallest thing on the page. So the smallest thing on the page is the button. So if I click on any button, I then get all the tools that I need to edit that button. So maybe we use a different symbol for want. I can click on that button and here I can see the label. I can also see the symbol selection. So if I want to choose a different symbol from all those symbols that we have available to us, as well as some in-app purchases for other symbol sets like Metacom, I can then bring those in. I also will see things like the actions that are linked to this button. I'm not going to mess with these because at this level, this is the way PODD is set up, but I may want to add different actions later, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I can also change the style of my button, so you'll see the background, thickness, lots of different things here. So the button is on the page. So the next largest thing is the page. I can click here, working from left to right. I now see everything that I can change around this page. So I probably don't want to change the grid size, particularly in the PODD pages that Gail has created. But I may need to change different background colors. I might want to change the style. Within the colors, we have brought in the ability to have custom colors. So we know that part of PODD, a really important part of PODD, is the color coding that goes along with it. And the color coding is really important to bring through if you create different pages, if you create new buttons as well. So if I want this button, this color here on, I can, sorry, that's a button. I can go in and in the style, I can grab that custom color. So that's a custom color. If I just go and click on that, that pencil, I can save it. So now it's there. I don't have to ever do that again. So now when I'm on the page, if I want to change the page color to be that custom color, I just go to style and I click on that. And I'll find that as one of my custom colors. So we can keep that consistency of color that PODD is known to have. Now, the page is part of the page set. So in here, I can do things like really quickly and easily go in and create new page sets because maybe I'm supporting a caseload of people, some of who are using 15 for preschool, some who are using 60. So it's really easy for me to go in and create a new page set to support other people that I might be supporting. I'm not going to do that right now. Another thing I can do is change things like the style throughout the entire page set. So this is really powerful and really quick and easy to do. So maybe I prefer a different font. We might have some visual access issues. We want to change to different fonts. Now this is going to change it throughout the entire page set. Maybe I need a larger font, so I can change that. I can also go through and decide whether I want my symbols to be above or below the label. Maybe I want a symbol only. Maybe I want a label only. This is going to change it throughout the entire page set. And another really cool feature of Snap is I can navigate when I'm in edit mode. So if I want to see if this is true, if it's changed it throughout, I just double click when I'm in edit mode, and it's going to take me through the links, through the jumps. And I think this is going to be really, really helpful and make editing in PODD super quick and super easy. So now if I want to go in and change that yucky symbol, I just click on it. You can see because it's a button, it's giving me everything I need to change that symbol to make it more appropriate for my user. So everything you need for page set is here. There's one other thing I want to show you because I think this is really cool. Is I can also change the grid margin throughout my entire page set. So if I have someone who needs maybe bigger buttons, and there could be lots of reasons for this, access, physical or visual, or maybe I want to have, as is set by default, really big gaps between. And again, that's going to be throughout the entire page set. I click one button and it does it throughout. I don't have to go and change page by page by page. Now, the page set is used by the user. So here I'll find things that are very specific to the person using this page set. So things like what their Tobii Dynavox account is, what voice they're using, the rate the voice is spoken at. I can also go in here and choose access methods. So if I need to change access methods for this user, I do it in there. Another awesome Snap feature, which some of you are familiar with from Compass, but we've made it even better here, is data tracking. So if I go to data tracking, I have to first go in and opt in. So this is saying, yes, I would like to read, I would like to track usage. If you need more information about the privacy policy, you can click through to my Tobii Dynavox and find, oh no, sorry, right below, and find it there. I can then decide if I want the usage counts to show or not. So right now I'm going to show them because I want you to see how this works. Now I can track usage by the user, and I can also track modeling counts. That's super important because we know with PODD, as in any AAC system, modeling is super important. So I can do that. I'll show you how that works in a moment. I can also have custom time ranges that this usage tracking is collected. So as a parent, if I'm curious to see how the PODD system is being used at school, I can track just that time. Or if I'm a speech and language therapist that wants to take a look and see how is this being used at home or across various times of the day, I can really kind of fine tune that. And then I can visit the Tobii Dynavox account linked with the user to run reports and print them out. And I think that's really where we've got another great advantage as we move to Snap, having that report that we can print out. And you can also print them out for just certain times of the day, for certain days of the week, for just specific periods to put into your report. So I'm going to get out of editing mode so I can show you how this data tracking works. So you can see right now as I click, see chat words has moved to 1. So I'm just going to keep clicking this so you can see oops and chat. The white at the top is the user usage. So you can see that moves up. Now, even when I turn off these icons, it's going to continue to collect that data. So typically I would turn this off because it's visually a lot for the user to have to handle. Now, if I want to change to track my modeling, then with touch devices, I just do a long hold there, and you can see that it's now moved to tracking. So that icon, which was sort of a little graph, changes to a point showing that I'm now in modeling mode. So again, if I click, you'll see that the peach button underneath is the one changing because that's counting my model clicks. So I just do, again, a long hold, and we're back to changing usage. I would typically, within the user, not want to have all that on, so I can just turn those off. They disappear, but they're still tracking in the background. So the button is on the page is on the page set is used by the user, and then we have some system elements that you can change. So something I know that's really important to a lot of you is being able to password protect certain elements of the system so our users don't get in there and start to edit things or change things on us. So we can go in and we can password protect the whole lot, or we can pick and choose what we are going to password protect. We can also put things on and off full screen mode so users don't end up closing it out and getting into YouTube and everything else that we don't want them in when we're focusing on communication. We can get to things like the store where we can add on different things to Snap. So this is where you'll find things that can be added to. If you already have Snap, this is where you're going to be able to add in your PODD page set. We have symbol sets. This is really awesome as well because what I can do is go through and I can change the ordering of the way symbols are presented. So you're getting all these fantastic PCS symbols. But if I'm supporting somebody who has a visual impairment, I might want to bring the high contrast symbols here up to the top. So I'm just going to move these up. It's a little bit fiddly. It's much easier to do, I have to admit, on a touch screen. Let me just go up here. And what this is going to do is it's going to change the ordering of the way symbols are presented to me. So it's going to make my editing even quicker. So now when I go in to edit something, so let's go into food and let's go, no, actually, let's go into, I'm going to just move this down. I can move this up and down, makes it much easier for me to see my page as I'm jumping around. So I want to go into actions. There we go. And let's go into movements. There we go. Now, when I click on, when I go to change my symbol, you're going to see, and I picked the wrong one. We don't have a high contrast. Let's do walk. There we go. I know I've got a high contrast for walk, and it's not working for some reason. It should have shown me that high contrast symbol first. I maybe didn't bring it all the way up to the top. But if I'd done that correctly, I would have had high contrast right at the beginning, which is going to make it a whole lot easier for me to do. I'm just going to go and check and see what I did there. Maybe I think it was my fault, not that. No, maybe it just hasn't jived yet. This is still a beta version, so there's a few little elements that are still working a little weird. Another thing we can find in User is lots of helpful tutorials and links to helping me use Snap even better. So that is the editing within Snap. I think for those of you who have struggled through Compass, and I feel your pain, my first day working with Dynavox is the day Compass launched. So I've been there with you through use of Compass. I hope you all agree that this is a much better, a much more intuitive interface when it comes to editing. I'm just going to check my notes here, make sure there isn't something that I've missed. Yeah, there's one fun one I want to show you, and it's a big one. Otherwise, I think I've gotten everything else. Now, I'm just going to get out of edit mode here. I'm going to clear. Something that, two things I want to show you. Something that I often got myself stuck in with Compass, this works in editing mode as well as in full use mode, is sometimes like pop-ups and things would open and I just want to get to the home page and I get kind of stuck. Well, you've always got your navigation buttons up here. So if I click on this, it's going to bring me right to home. Or if I've got myself through
I have a
few
question.
things, it'll always take me back. So they're always there, no matter where you get. If you get yourself in a pickle, which is much harder to do in Snap, but if you do, you can click on those buttons to get you back where you want to be. Another thing I've got up here is my search mode. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to search for the word burp because I am supporting a little girl who loves playing with dolls. And I know that we can add some sounds that I think she's going to find really motivating to be able to press that and hear her little baby doll burp. So I'm not exactly too sure. I can't remember where that burp button is. I know I've seen it before when we were playing with our dolls, and I have this idea of bringing in a sound. So I'm using this search feature here, and it's going to show me that's where burp was. I couldn't remember where it was. So I'm going to click on that. And now Snap is going to model for me where I find this word. So it's go through toys, go through doll, and it's in doll actions. So now I can find burp because that's a visit page or what you know as a pop-up. It's going to bounce me back to where it started. But now I can go into edit mode. I can double click doll actions, and then I can find my little burp button here. I'm going to click on that. Because something else that you can do in Snap, and for those of you who know Snap now, this is a feature that's new. It's coming out when we release 1.14, which is where we introduced Snap. I have always had the ability to record, so I could record myself burping. That would be kind of rude, so I won't do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is click on this button, which is the new feature, which is going to allow me to browse to find a recording. And I know that I have in my Boardmaker studio, I've got some fun little sounds that I'm going to bring in. So I'm just going to go here. Don't know if this is any less rude than me actually recording doing this, but let's go in and bring it in because I think this is going to really engage my user. It's going to give her a giggle when we're playing dollies next time. She can go in And now that's done. I've brought in that recording, and she can now make her baby burp. So sorry, that's a little bit rude, but kind of fun. So that's everything I want to show you in this page set. Now I'm going to move over to 60 and show you a little bit more and introduce you to that page set as well. So I'm going to go to page set here because that's what I want to change. I'm going to click on here. Actually, first, sorry, I need to go to a different user. This is something so we can show you syncing later. There you go. I could there choose a different page set, but I'm going to use the page set that's set up here for Rob because I'm going to now go in and do some editing for Rob. So first off, I want to go through and add a few things for him. You will notice that everything that you know about PODD stays the same. So when our pop-ups appear, we will see that we can go in and get those pop-ups the way that we're used to seeing them, and that things will bounce back. All of that stays exactly the same. So my navigation is there, that muscle memory stays the same, just as you've known with PODD. So I want to show you something. I want to show you how you can add some behavior supports in this, because we have behavior supports in Snap. We've had them in a while. We actually had them in Compass, but they were really hard to bring in to PODD. You could do it a very long-winded way, but it's so much easier in Snap. So Rob and I have been working on some self-calming techniques for him. When he tells me that he is feeling a little bit, I'm going to turn the page. When Rob is feeling a little bit stressed, I've been working on some self-calming techniques for him. So some deep breathing and stuff. So what I'd like to do on this page, when he tells me he's stressed or he's worried about something, I want to add a first then, because we have a first then behavior support in Snap. So I'm going to go into edit mode, and I'm going to click on this button here, which is clear. So we can edit this for Rob. So we're going to talk about calming down. So I'm going to write calming, and I'm going to find a symbol for him for, there we go, telling you, all right, you need to calm down. And I'm going to get rid of this action because I don't want this to go into the message window. I'm going to delete this. Instead, I'm going to add a new action. And for those of you, again, who are used to Snap, you'll see 1.14, we've brought in a new way of visualizing our actions, as well as being able to go in and do a search. So I can go through and find that first then action really quickly. I'm just going to scroll down so I can show you some of the other actions. If I do scroll down, we'll see that with behavior supports, we've got first then, mini schedules, we can add scripts, we can also add a visual timer. But I'd like to add a first then for Rob. So we're going to say calming techniques. Techniques. So this is something that we're working on. So first, Rob is going to go find a quiet place. And I can find that symbol. Good. So he needs to go find a quiet place. And then he's going to take some deep breaths. So that's not the right symbol. That's looking for deep. So I'm going to just look for breaths. Breaths. So we'll put that in. That's perfect. Okay, I'm going to save that. And we go done. So I could have changed the background to this to make it stand out more, show that it's different. Something else I want to show you that we can do also to make it different. I'm going to click on this and delete it. I think I'll click on that one and that one as well. And now I'm going to take this and I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger there. So that like points out it's a little bit different. So now when Rob is feeling stressed or worried, he can click on this and he's going to get that first then behavior support to remind him
first, quiet place,
to find a quiet place,
then deep breaths.
So it's giving him that strategy to handle some of his behaviors himself, which is going to open him up to better communication. So I think that is like an awesome addition to Snap PODD. Another feature that we've got in Snap PODD, for those of you who've been using Compass, you're familiar with our whiteboard. So we can click on the whiteboard, and now, we can use and engage multimodal communication. Rob maybe wants to draw a picture to show me how he's feeling. Maybe he wants to bring in a photograph. So I'm going to add an image. And now I can use my Indie or my iSeries to take a photo of the situation right now. Or maybe I can bring in a photo. So I'm just going to go in and find a picture, because then Rob can, I'm just going to bring in anything. There you go. Monet makes Rob very stressed and upset. So now he can go in and he can circle this and he can tell me how he's feeling about it. He can write to say it makes him sad. And then we can grab a new whiteboard, and the old one's still there, so we can refer to it. That's a great addition from what you had in Compass. And then we can maybe start to then talk about what's going to make him happy and what's going to make him feel less stressed. So the whiteboard is a great addition to SnapPod. We also have some lovely features that some of you may be familiar with bringing in Access It. We didn't have time to demonstrate that yesterday when we did this, so I'm not going to go into it today. But if you'd like to learn more about Access It, it is just a nice little USB that you can add to any device, which allows you then to use your pod to control a computer and to send anything from your message window to your computer. So you can send it to a Word document, to a PowerPoint, to your web browser, to a WhatsApp message. Really, really powerful stuff and very straightforward to use. What I'd like to spend a little bit of time showing you now is the Google Assistant integration that we have put into Snap. So you may have heard, we've been talking about it quite a lot recently. We have teamed up with Google to put Google Assistant within Snap. So this is different than what you see here. It's different than having to have an Alexa or having to have a Siri on in the environment in order to use my message window or to use the pre-programmed buttons to engage with. With Google Assistant, what we have is the ability to use Google Assistant with not having any type of Google device. We can use Google Assistant by having a Google account. So I don't have any of those kind of gadgets here in my house, but I do have a Gmail account, and I am connected to the internet at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to edit a button because I'm getting this ready for Rob. We're going to sync this in a little bit. And I'm going to add a button here where we're going to ask Google, let's see, what is the weather today? And I don't want this to get sent into the message window, so I'm going to delete that. And instead, I'm going to add an action because I want Rob to be able to ask what the weather is. I have a favorite right here, send Google Assistant command. So I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to ask it to send the message window. Send the button message to Google Assistant. So I'm going to ask it to do that. It's going to send it to Google Assistant. Now, in order for that to work, I do need to go as a user and connect it to my Gmail account. I've already done this here. Let me disconnect it. That was from yesterday's demo. I'll show you how easy it is. I'm going to say, yes, I'd like to connect it to Google. Yep, I understand that I'm connecting to Google. And now it's going to ask me because I actually have a few different Google accounts. So I want to connect it to this one. It's really straightforward. And now it is going to say, yep, I would like you to do that. Allow for that to happen. And yes, allow that. And now go back to Snap Pod, and that's all set up there. I'm going to create another button as well. I'll demonstrate what happens with this in a second. That's taking this exact message and sending it to Google Assistant. I also want to make a button that Rob's going to demonstrate in a little bit. I'm going to just delete this. I'm going to go ahead and add an action. And this time, I'm going to send a Google Assistant command that sends the message window, because I want Rob to be able to ask it questions on the fly. I want him to be able to create a message in his pod and then send it to Google Assistant. So I can go in here and let's just put, because I think we have some icons here. We can say, hey, Google. So we can have that there. That shows Rob that that's a Google Assistant. I'm also going to change this to bright yellow to show him it's a little bit different there. Okay, and he's going to demonstrate that in just a moment. So what I'm going to do is press done. I'm going to show you what happens when I click this. Let me get my volume up nice and loud because I turned it down before. So I'm going to ask Google, what's the weather today? And we should hear
Right now in Whitstable it's 12 degrees and sunny. Today, it'll be partly cloudy, with a forecast high of 13 and a low of 6.
Okay, so I kind of overcut that, but it said today in Whitstable. Whitstable is where I live, down in the southeast of England. So it told me, Google knew where I was, and it told me what the weather was today. So I've got this ready. I've got Rob's coming techniques. I've changed a few symbols for him. I've put some Google Assistant stuff in there for him. So now what I'm going to do, and I'm sitting here on my Windows computer, is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to sync this. I'm logged in to the same user, to the same page set as Rob. He is 4 hours north of me in the north of England. He's using an iPad. So I'm going to click on this, which is going to initiate a sync. So I'm going to put sync page. Now we tried this yesterday and we got it a little muddled up. It was our fault, not the computer's fault. So hopefully we've got it right today. It's just syncing this. It's always the joys of coming to the second day of a webinar. The first day we always have a few hiccups. Here we can see that it has been updated. It's up to date. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sign off. I'm going to mute myself and we're going to move it over to Rob. I'm also going to stop my share so you can see him nice and clearly. And Rob's going to then show you how everything's moved over to him. All right, Rob.
Yeah, so here's my iPad here. And if we come into here into the edit and controls where Tina was just showing you the Google commands there, you'll see there's nothing there currently. So if I go into sync on mine, you can see now that I've got a little icon up on the sync bit. There's a little exclamation mark telling me there's new information to be had. So I can click on sync page set now, and now I'll be downloading the latest version of everything from the server. So we'll just wait for a few minutes to do that, and that's now completed. So now we can go in and we can go into editing controls, and you can see now that the information that Tina had just programmed in has appeared on my screen here. And if I press what's the weather today?
Currently in Sheffield it's 9 degrees and mostly sunny. Today it'll be partly cloudy with a forecast high of 10 and a low of 2.
So you can see that Google recognizes that my iPad is in Sheffield. So when Tina pressed on it, it said in Whitstable and gave the weather report for Whitstable. And for me, my iPad's just told me what the weather is in Sheffield today. Now, the other thing that Tina programmed in was this button here, which says send message window to Google Assistant. So if I want to do something of my own, then I can come into here. In my room, I've got a smart bulb set up above me. Because I'm from the north and it's the main light in the room, I call it the big light. So I can go into home and garden and then say turn on, and then into descriptions and size and measure and say big, and then light. And then I can come into edit controls and send the message window to Google Assistant, and then my light turns on. And I don't know if you heard there, it just said, got it, turning big light on. So that's how the sync works, which is exactly the opposite to how me and Tina messed it up completely yesterday. And it worked an absolute treat today because we actually did it right. Yeah, that's the power of syncing between cross-platform everything. As I said right at the very beginning, one of the really important features of Snap Pod is that the experience and the setup is identical whether you're using Windows or iOS. So you don't have to worry about because Tina's programming on a Windows device. Is she putting things on there that are not going to work on my iPad? Everything that works in Windows will also work in my iPad too. Okay, that was that.
Awesome. Thanks,
Back to you,
Rob.
Tina.
I'm glad we
Thanks.
cracked that. And that was great. So I'm going to go back to sharing my SnapPod because we do have a few questions I see, because that's where we're at the question and answer part of the session. So if you have any questions, if you haven't chatted them in yet, please feel free to do so now. I am going to share my screen because I see that there's some questions that people have, and I want to be able to.
I've been saving them, Tina. So shall I start running through them?
Yeah,
And you can take them as
totally.
they come off. Okay, so the first one that I saved: if we have an existing professional's license, are we able to update to get a copy of SnapPod for assessment purposes? Yes. After launch, that will appear in your content available within your professional's account within My Tobii Dynavox. Next question: iGaze version with a pause rest, also linked to that. Can I put a pause rest in myself if it's not included?
Shall I do that? I don't.
Yes.
Why don't I show you? It doesn't look like we have the pause rest in the gaze interaction part of it. It doesn't look. Oh, sorry, let me have that. Doesn't look like it's in there. So it's really easy for me to put it in. I could put it in there. I could put it in anywhere I like, really. So I'll just put it in here. Let me go and hold on. I'm going to multi-select these. Oop, nope, did too many multi-select. Let me get rid of that. Sorry. I'll just get rid of a couple of these. Hold on, get rid of that. Make it a little bit bigger so it's easier for me to hit. And then I'm going to grab this. I'm going to make that big. And then if we go into this button now, and I look at actions and I type in pause, we can pause access method. So there we go. We'll get rid of it so it doesn't send it in. And then I can pause any access method. Right now, I'm simply in touch. Let me go to my user because that's a user thing. Go to access method. Let's see if I can show how this would work with mouse dwell. There we go. If I go back, I have everything that I need to change around mouse dwell. So I press done. And now if I need to pause, I'll pause. And you can see up here, it'll reflect what's going on as well. So for modeling, if we want to help, we can help out by pressing this up here as well. And we also have it there. This button will automatically pop up. I feel like I'm pretty certain saying, and any of my colleagues who are on the call can chime in here. This pops up, this pause will pop up once you put it into an alternate access method, so that communication partners can support, but then you can just very simply add a button as you saw me do if needed.
Cool, thank you. Next question. Is it possible to set that the child cannot come out of SnapPod? I know a way for that I don't know a way for that in Windows, only in iOS.
In Windows, yeah, that's part of our system. So the system of PODD, we just click on this here, turn the full screen mode on, and then I can't get off, can't get out of SnapPod in here. I'm now stuck in here. Also, if you have Tobii Dynavox devices, there are certain ways to also make sure that you lock it in further through, what setting is that in your Tobii Dynavox device?
But the other thing to mention there is the way to get out of full screen mode is to go into the settings, and of course we can password protect those, so we can stop people from undoing that.
Totally.
Next one, and a good one for you, Tina. Am I right that you can print books off from this rather than creating a book separately in using PODD and Boardmaker software?
Okay, no, really, you can't, because the setup is completely different. Obviously, with a dynamic device like this, we can do things like have these pop-ups, which of course we can't replicate in a low-tech book. You can, however, print a page if you want something for modeling or just as a backup. You can print some pages. It will not work like a low-tech PODD system is designed to. But if I want to print a page, I just click on page in my editing mode. And then over here on the right-hand side, you will see this print button. So I can click on that, and then I can choose this page as well as, let's say I want to do dolls, because we were talking about the doll action. What was it? Doll action. Oh, no, let's do action. It should be. Oh, it's because I'm not in the children's anymore. That's why. Probably don't have dolls in this anymore. Let's say I want to do those two. I can then select those to be printed. That is not to replace a low-tech system. You're still looking at using Boardmaker to create your low-tech pod books, but you can print pages for modeling or showing for records. You might want to show what a book looks like, what a page looks like at this time, and print it off to put in somebody's records for future reference.
Okay, thank you very much. The next one was about the minimum requirements of the iPad that's required. That is an iPad 3 or newer and at least iOS 10 with 1.6 gig free. So I hope that answered your question. So it's quite an old iPad is the minimum requirement for that. I have an Indie device with PODD on Grid 3 and Snap plus Core First also installed. I'm looking to get an iPad with Snap PODD on. How do I switch to using Snap PODD on both devices? That's a good one. I would think that there's two ways to do this. The first one is to sign up and get a 50% discount off the Windows standalone install, which gives you access on both. I think, though, if you bought PODD to go onto your existing Snap Core First license, then that would give you the that would give you iOS as well because of the companion licenses on of the Indie.
Yep. And that actually answers the next question, is that they already have Snap Core First on an iPad. It would be the same if you have it on the Indie, which is Windows. So you just, as you saw, I showed it earlier, I'll show it again. If you go into System and you go into Store, you can then purchase in your Snap, you will be able to purchase just PODD as an add-on, and that's 149 pounds.
Yes.
Rob? Yep.
Yeah.
So for 149 pounds, you then add PODD into your already existing Snap, whether it's iPad or Windows. If you already have iPad, then you're licensed to use it on iPads, as we've said earlier. If you put it on your Windows, that will give you that bounce of having the companion app on
but if you don't have Snap Core First or Snap already on Windows, then that wouldn't give you access because you'd still need the Snap license on Windows.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you've got Snap Core First on an iPad and you want to get PODD on Windows, then your best bet is to buy the Windows license next week.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
We can always see. We'll give you all of our contact information. We can hold your hand through this because
There
obviously
are-
it is a little bit confusing.
The confusion comes, unfortunately, because of the way the licensing works through the Apple Store, and that's a restriction placed on us. So it's one of those issues that's out of our control, unfortunately. Whereas with the Windows licensing, because we run the licensing, we're able to be more flexible with it. What are the minimum requirements? Oh, we've done that. We had that question.
There's something
twice.
about the key guards. So do we have
right.
key
Yeah,
guards?
that was where I got to in terms of copying things out. Fabulous. Are there preset key guards already made for PODD 15 on the i13? Good question. I think so, that they are coming, but we can double check that one for you.
And they're asking about compatibility with the partner window. I think I just saw that. If I go to edits and control, we have partner window. There you go. So definitely compatible. We've even put the buttons in there for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's definite.
Can you create a news button?
We have we have the news section, and I can't remember where that is. That's in there. You'll see actually it here as well. We've got save to button. So let me just quickly go put something in here so you can see how this works. Hold on, let's see what. This is where you can see I'm not an avid PODD user. Let me go to main page. What I will not, let's just do one more. What I will not, no, believe. Okay, so now if I go to edit and controls, I've got saved work here. I can click save to button, and then I can save that anywhere and accept that. The other thing you can do is if I go into edit mode, you can also have a button up at the top that's copy to button. So you can have a copy to button. It's also an action. You can put it anywhere you like. So now I can be anywhere. Maybe I want to put that in. Let me go back to main page. I don't know. Let's put it in characters. I can now add this copy to button anywhere. So we've made that even easier, really, than it's ever been before. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Tina. Okay, well, I think that's all of the questions that we've.
Somebody's asking, so when SnapPod is released to purchase for Tobii I-12, the purchase is through the Windows App Store?
No. No, the SnapPod won't be on the Windows Store. We're taking it off because it gives us the ability to do more with the licensing, whereas the Windows Store was restricting us to some degree in terms of what we were doing. So it will be an I don't know if on Windows if it will be an in-app purchase. That's a good question, or whether it will be purchased through my Tobii Dynavox. We can find that one out.
I believe, because I'm on Windows right now, and if I go to store, if I already have Snap, it's showing up in the pod page set there.
True. Yeah.
So I think you should be able to do it through Snap. But we can clarify that in follow-up emails.
That's where yesterday we had Emily, the global product manager, with us, and she was able to clarify some of those things for us that we get a bit stuck on. But we can come back to you on that one. Just pop us a message.
Okay, so what I'll do now is just go back to our PowerPoint here so we can wrap up. Give you, for those of you in the UK, give you our information. We will be sending in a follow-up email. Let me just go here. We will be giving you links to our team. So we have a Find Us page where you just put in your postcode and you can actually book right online a time that works for you and our account managers to meet virtually. So if that's something of interest, if you want to know more about SnapPod, any of our software or hardware, we can do that there. We will also send links for those of you who are joining us outside of the UK to pages where you can find information about your local partners and your local teams, so you can get in touch with them. All right, with that being said, I'm going to thank you all so much for your time and attention. I'm going to end the recording. We will share the recording